an extraordinary collection.
Perfect. It's
Wonderful.
stunning.
Well, that really is a staggering collection that you brought in.
They were my mother-in-law's, and they were in the bank. And it wasn't until after her death, 12 years ago, that we discovered this jewellery in the bank. So
I'm going to start from the most recently made piece, and then I'm going to go backwards. Right. I'm going to start with this one here. Emerald and diamond brooch, that very geometric, rectangular look would date that to Art Deco. This is absolutely right for around about 1930.
Yes.
And during that time, you know, firms like Cartier and their contemporaries were making very, very linear looking jewellery. But the emerald in the middle of this piece is a lovely, dark, blue-green colour, and it's just the kind of colour that the market most looks for. Now, the earrings here, emerald and diamond earrings, are a totally different thing. They are in Victorian gold and silver settings, where the stones themselves are individually mounted up in gold, and they've got diamond frames where you've got these old Victorian cut diamonds, probably around about the start of Victoria's reign, 1840, 1845. Now we move on. Look at that.
they are superb.
Oh,
They're
wonderful.
stunning.
Emeralds in canatile gold settings. Canatile is a word that we use to describe this kind of very complex filigree scroll work. Now, if I can turn it over and have a look at the back of it, there's the canatile work, and there at the bottom is a hook. And suspended from that hook might originally have been something like a larger cluster. The stones themselves are individually foiled. And that's another thing to bear in mind. They've got this uniformity of bright grass green colour, but we might find that if you were to remove one of those stones, it has a tin foil behind to enhance the colour. The actual necklace itself, we can date to round about the reign of William IV, that sort of period.
Really?
So it's that early.
Gosh.
I'm very taken with that. So, value. Now, the Art Deco brooch is wearable, top quality, platinum mounted. At auction, it would probably go up to round about £2,500 to £3,000. The earrings, emeralds and diamonds again, I'm noting the old cut of the diamonds, but they are exquisitely commercial. One would be expecting them to make maybe 4,000 or 5,000. Moving on to the necklace, I think that if it was offered at auction, it would probably make about £8,000.
Really?
Yeah. So add those together, something approaching £15,000 to £20,000. I'm thrilled you bought them. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you. The light here shows us how very white these diamonds are, because this is a diamond parure of jewellery. Parure, a set,
Yes.
brooch and matching drops for the ears. The period of design for something like this is very much late 1940s, start of the 1950s,
Yes.
when London jewellers used to make jewellery like this, very white, using brilliant cuts, which are the round diamonds, and in this case, baguette cut diamonds. And you know the way it is, ladies would go to cocktail parties where they would wear their sets of jewellery. Sometimes with these drops for the ears, you could remove the diamonds, and I see you can, can't you?
Yes, you can.
You could wear them as simple cluster clips on the lobe during the daytime, and at night time you would put your baguette diamond
Yes.
drops on. Nighttime, daytime earrings.
Yes.
Very, very practical indeed. You've got the additional facility on the brooch that you can remove it from the frame like that. You pull back these clip fittings. I'll show you there. You just pull that like that. That dismantles, and then you can wear one on one side of your lapel and one on the
Weren't
other.
they very fashionable in the 50s to wear clips?
Very much so, and in the 30s too.
Were they? Yes.
And you can imagine how striking that would look.
Yes.
Now, you've also brought in something that is utterly different from this. I mean, you couldn't get two pieces or three pieces that were so different in design. This is a totally aesthetic piece of jewellery, isn't it? It's very, very subtle, it's very delicate. Whereas this is all flash and show, this is far more gentle. Do you know about this? I mean, I'm assuming that they didn't come from the same place or at different times, or what?
I don't know. This belonged to my grandmother. That I do know, so it won't have come from the same place as this jewellery. And my grandmother gave me that when I was 21.
the jeweller who's made this has actually managed to get a range of different coloured sapphires. These are blue ones, and here we've got some pink sapphires. And these are almost like moonstones, but they're actually like a liquid white coloured sapphire. And they're from Ceylon, I would think, and that's where you get all these different multicoloured sapphires. And then you've got the frame, which is all enamelled in bright green, very vibrant. So there is a sense of contrast between the stones and the frame.
Yes.
Now, the key about this is you've got a little cartouche-shaped maker's mark at the top there.
Yes.
That maker's mark tells me that this is a piece of jewellery made by that very famous house who were working in the Victorian times called Giuliano. And you had...
It is them.
It is them. Did you have a suspicion that it might have been?
I've never ever had anybody look at it before, but I hope that it might be.
Well,
so
I'm
to
delighted to
like that.
confirm that it is. It's not Carlo Giuliano the father, it's
Yes.
actually the sons, and they've got a slightly different mark there.
Oh.
And we can date this piece to about 1890. It's getting towards the end of the Victorian period.
Yes.
You've also got, just as an extra bonus, a matching chain to go with
Yes.
it as well. Although I'm looking at that and that hasn't got a maker's mark on it. But this is absolutely right and correct and proper for the period by this maker.
Yes.
And it's colourful, it's delicate, it's wearable, and it's deeply commercial.
Oh, thank you.
Right, well, let's talk about values. The diamond clip brooch, each side here has got about 6 carats of diamonds. That counts to about 12 carats of diamonds. So at basic break-up price for this diamond brooch, we would be looking at maybe £4,000 or £5,000. The earrings to go with it, the fact it's a set adds a little boost to it as
Yes.
well. So I think those earrings are something around the £3,000 to £3,500 region. And then we move to this. Now, I would like to think that if this was being sold, the interest would be comprehensive, and I think it's probably going to be worth something in the region of £6,000 for this as well.
Yes.
That's the key name.
Yes.
Terrific. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
I bought it at a local auction rooms just a few weeks ago.
What, from
Local to
round here?
Well, local to North Wales, yes.
How much did you pay?
£120.
Well, certainly when I saw the name Franklin, Duke Street, St James's, London,
Yes.
very good name
Yes.
indeed. It's a sautoir. This is what they're called.
Sautoir.
Sautoir, and it would have been worn as a long necklace round the
Right.
neck, and the ends of it would literally extend down right the way to the waist.
Yeah.
And they were very popular from about 1895, particularly through to around about 1905. They're real pearls.
Oh.
So you've got a woven line, a sort of plaited spiraled line of real pearls.
Oh, lovely.
Look at the diamonds, because that's what they are in these caps. You've got these finials, these sort of terminal points here.
Yes.
They look like little caps, but each of the lines are set in silver with tiny, tiny diamonds, rose-cut diamonds.
Rose-cut ones. Right.
And then each of these sort of terminals suspends at the bottom a series of rubies. They're all set in gold,
Yes.
alternating with little cubes.
That's right,
And each
yes.
of the cubes is individually set with more tiny diamonds.
Diamonds. Right.
And then suspended at the end of the last ruby is yet another tassel terminal with more diamonds in the cap, all silver set by the way,
Yes.
and then a series of real pearl fringe drops. But the staggering thing about all this is that you've managed to acquire a fairly important piece of jewellery for £120.
Yes.
Because I think that if one was selling this, it would probably make £3,000.
Oh my goodness me. That's a lot of money.
My brother bought it from my mum from a jumble sale when he was young for 2p.
A 2p?
Yeah, 2
So tuppence?
Yeah.
With the old
Yeah, old money. My mum said she wanted something nice, so brother bought that.
Well, clearly a flower brooch. Austrian. These flashy little white stones, they're diamonds.
Fair enough.
And turning it over, the back of the frame, white gold, rather beautifully set like a claw on each of these petals. Petals made out of frosted rock crystal. What the mauve stone is? That's purple amethyst quartz. So all real gems, white gold, tiny diamonds in a flash, Austrian,
Yeah.
circa 1960, 1965.
Go on.
Value,
Yeah.
if you were selling this in an auction today, £500?
No way.
Every way possible. Very, very pretty little brooch.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Lovely.
My grandmother handed it down to me when she passed away a few years ago at the age of 102.
Goodness gracious me.
So-
Well, now look at that.
She left all this
Look at that.
for me as
Because
well.
here we have a veritable cabinet of curiosities. It's an extraordinary collection of Georgian and Victorian jewellery. Let's have a look at this one first, because this does catch my eye. And this is a Georgian gold Belcher link chain. And typically it's got a hand clasp terminating at the bottom. On the finger of the clasp is this little gem set ring. It's a beautiful little piece. There's another gold chain made out of spun gold. I mean, considering it was probably made in about 1825, 1830, you can see the technique, the sophistication that would have been made. Then there's some really delightful mourning rings. Now, the thing about mourning rings is, of course, when someone died, it was customary to commemorate the person by mounting a small lock of hair in a locket centre, surrounding it quite frequently with half pearls. Being mourning, the colour was black, always going to be black. And then at the back of the ring, we might find a small sort of engraving of the person's name, the date that they passed on. And then also you might find a tiny little locket compartment where there would be a small lock of hair. Do you wear them at all?
I have actually worn this little one. Sean and I got married in Winchester Guildhall last year dressed up in a medieval costume, and I did actually wear that.
And that was the actual ring that you wore?
I did wear that one, yeah.
Let's just have a look at that one then, because it's quite a simple ring, really. It's a late Victorian gold ring with a sapphire in the middle, surrounded by a sort of posy of half pearls. So I assume then that apart from knowing it's come down the family, you've never actually had it valued before?
No.
Well, I think on the basis that a Georgian gold muff chain like this is a little shorter than the very long ones that you get, that by itself is probably worth something around £1,000. This fine mesh tubular chain necklace, that's probably worth around about £600 to £800. The rings, you've got the half hoop ring there, lovely diamonds, 5 graduated stones, that's worth about £800 to £1,000. The mourning rings are worth between £300 and £400 each. So from what looks like a fairly sort of straight Sheffield plate set, which is worth maybe no more than around about £300, you've got a lower tier drawer, which is probably worth £8,000.
God. Oh, I didn't realise that at all.
It really is a unique collection.
Goodness me.
I had it for my 21st birthday from my grandfather.
So family ring, going back the years,
Going
generations?
back probably only to the beginning of the 1900s, when it belonged to my step-grandfather.
Well, it's almost got the head of the ring is like a box. The pretty garnet in the middle there, isn't it? That purpley colour garnet. It looks a bit like a ruby, but I think looking at this purple colour, it's going to be a garnet in a surround of tiny diamonds that form almost like a star. And then we've got enamel, which I must say, when I first thought I saw that, I thought that they were turquoise, but they're not. It's that sky blue colour.
Yeah.
So that combination of stones and colour was often used in Victorian jewellery.
Yes.
But there's something interesting about this ring, isn't there?
There is.
Because the whole thing is like a concertina.
Yes.
And there, instead of just having a ring,
A bracelet.
it's a lady's bracelet. So, I mean, it's beautiful as a ring, but as a bracelet, it is a dimension that is just fantastic, really. And they used to do this in the Victorian period. What date do you think it is?
Well, I think it's probably early Victorian, about 1840.
1845, 1850 would be about the latest I would put on it, and it's very much 1840. It's very pretty jewellery, I have to say. I mean, it sounds a slightly odd thing to say, but jewellery of that period was very feminine. I think it's very, very saleable indeed. I know you're not going to sell such a ring because, of course, it's a family ring, but
Yeah.
I think such a ring like that, because of its feature that you can do so many different things with it, means that buyers would be very excited to see one like this. And I think in auction, £1,000 to £1,500 for
Yes.
it, I would
Yeah.
think. The balance of this for me is perfect. I love the whole shape of it, and I'm particularly fond of pendants, but is it something that you particularly look at and think this is a very, very pretty piece?
Yes, it's a beautiful piece. The shape of it's lovely, and just the emerald drop is absolutely beautiful. And remembering that it was my mother-in-law's, it makes it very special.
Yes. I mean, all the right sort of ingredients are there. You've mentioned what the principal stone is
Yes.
there. They're interesting, because they're not always fantastic quality. The best of them come from Colombia, and they are characterized by this very intense blue-green color. Then they get very wishy-washy sometimes, and they get so pale that, frankly, they look like very, very pale sort of marked glass. But the very best ones come from Colombia, and it's got that intense blue-green color. So, looking at the diamonds, we've got this, what you might call a sort of stylized palmette-shaped top to it. The diamonds themselves are set in individual little settings where you've almost got a cup that grips the diamonds in place. The front of it, incidentally, is all mounted up, as you might have thought, in this very white finish in platinum. But then when we turn it over, look at the back of it, we see that it's actually backed in yellow gold.
I've never noticed that.
It's unusual that you see that sort of yellow mount. Now, that means we can date this probably to around about 1905.
Right.
After then, the jewellery was more or less totally superseded by platinum. So it's quite an early piece for its period. On the platinum chain, let me just have a look at that. What an emerald. I mean, it really is a cracking stone. It's a really deep blue-green colour of an intensity and uniformity that is just what people look for. So, there's the ingredients. The value for something like this is far higher than you would expect to break the stones out for. With a lot of pieces of jewellery that are made maybe in the 1950s and 60s, they are described as what we call break-up. You look at the content of diamonds and think, well, the mount's not particularly beautiful. And all I would reckon it at is the break-up of the stones. No way on something like that. That is going to fetch a price based on its beauty and its wearability. I think if this was being sold in auction, it's going to make something in the region of £3,500.
It's lovely. It's lovely. It belongs to my daughter, so she will be very pleased.
Shall I tell you what I think it is? I think it's a snowflake.
Oh, right, okay.
I think it's a snowflake brooch pendant. And the beauty of it is to have this contrast of all the different rainbow colours of gems. Look at the diamonds, they form this nice flash in between each of the gems themselves. But all the gems are different mixtures of semi-precious and precious gems in a snowflake cluster surround. Now, usually when they enclose the back of a gold brooch of this sort of period, you can see right the way through to the gems themselves. This is fully closed in at the back, which actually is a little confusing, because I think, looking at the stones at the front, that this is late Victorian. Usually when they enclose the whole back of the mount, that is usually Georgian, but I don't think this is a Georgian brooch at all. I think this was made in about 1895. So it's a full range of colourful late Victorian gems in a frame of diamonds, and the middle stone is a peridot. But it is individually numbered on the back there, and that's good because it shows it's a quality piece made by a quality manufacturer. I think if it was being offered in a retail shop, it would probably sell today for £6,000 to £6,500. That's my feeling about it.
I inherited it from my aunt, whose husband gave it to my aunt during their marriage, but I don't know the history of it apart from that.
It's an interesting cluster ring. When I first saw it, I thought to myself it's going to be something like a topaz or one of these brown stones. Yes. Sometimes you get things like brown sapphires. Yes. It's a diamond in the centre. And on this side we have another one in white. But the thing about this ring that's most interesting is this one, because this is a bluey green one. All diamond set, but all different colours. And from my point of view, seeing coloured diamonds, well, it always is very exciting because coloured diamonds are extremely rare. This one is almost a sort of yellowish brown colour, but this one is the one that's quite exciting because one of the rarest colours that you can find are blue, and even rarer is the colour green. The surrounding line of diamonds around the three principal stones is a different period from the three centre stones. I think it's certainly Victorian, this cluster, with this type of silver setting, this nipped-in setting here. But when we look at the three principal diamonds, we see that they're all claw-set stones. The diamonds themselves are cushion-shaped Victorian cut stones, and I think they were probably cut in maybe around about 1900 or 1905 at the very latest. As far as trying to value fancy diamonds is concerned, it is very, very difficult. There are so many subtle nuances of colour. You get greyish blue, bluish grey, greenish blue, bluish green, and what you have to do with them is to send them off to a laboratory where they will actually issue a certificate stating exactly what the colour is. Let's suppose that it comes back as being a natural, fancy green-blue diamond or blue-green diamond, and that they can say it with certainty, in which case I'm going to be very broad with my pricing here and say hopefully at least £2,500 to £3,000, but it could very well be worth £5,000 with all the right gradings.
Well, that's very good news. Thank you.
My grandfather bought them for my grandmother over the years. And I think he must have bought them in London.
It's very tricky with jade. Issues with jade you have to bear in mind are colour, uniformity of colour through the stone, shape of the stone, size of course, patina. If you get a piece of jade that's very scratched and you get one that's very smooth and perfect, it's considerably more valuable for being a perfect stone than one that might have a few abrasions on it. Mm-hmm. But, you know, when we look at these two, that's a piece of jade.
It's fabulous, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, as far as the age is concerned, the diamond setting is very 1925.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that that's the period for the ring itself. I ought to add one little caveat, which is these days jade is improved. They impregnate, they do all sorts of things to make them look slightly better than they are. The good news is, though, it's unlikely with a stone of that date. This one here, have you noticed it's got a slightly wedge shape? It's almost as if it's been polished slightly off, and that does affect the interest a little.
Yeah.
Then you've got this splendid deco jade brooch, where I think they must have taken a couple of pieces of Chinese jade that have been carved, set them in little settings of diamonds, this flash, it's almost like a geometric bow, and then you've got these calibre black little hard stones in between, and this colour combination, the black, the white, the green, was very deco.
Yeah.
Now, let me just have a look at these jade pieces, because these are a fantastic colour, aren't they? These are wonderful. Now one small anxiety I've got, and I'm sure you have noticed it, it's got a crack running all the way through it.
In fact, the mount's been made to hold it because it's got more claws on that side.
And they're very thin slices, aren't they?
Yeah.
These are the sort of things that would have been done in China, and you know, you could wear them as clips for the ears or something, but these have been made into a brooch. And then finally, you've got this terrific, terrific Chinese jade carving, which by its quality, I mean, look at the detail here, the little birds, the piercing.
And what sort of a flower is that?
Well, they're usually things like lotus flowers. They're usually lotus flowers, and you'd have all sorts of symbols.
And is this a pea, you know, a pod?
The pea pod is there. But what a fantastic thick slab of imperial jade. Well, that really is a staggering collection that you brought in. Moving on to the question of values, it's not easy. If that wasn't damaged, it would be enormously commercial, but the damage does affect the price.
Yes, obviously.
I think that in that condition, with the crack across it, my instinct is that this is probably worth something around £4,000.
Yes.
This one here, with the wedge,
Yeah.
you know, I love the polish. It's on a 1925 bar with the diamonds on the shoulders. That one there, I think it has to be worth the same sort of money. This one here, I think, is the most beautiful carving, and it reminds me of one that I saw some years ago that was very similar, that I know in auction fetched something like £6,000 to £8,000.
Really? Gosh.
Then we move on to this one. And this one, I would want to do a little bit of work on it, just to be absolutely sure on this one. But I think this is probably £8,000 or £10,000.
I wear it quite a lot.
Well, I just think it's got so much going for it. The size, the
marvellous,
shape,
isn't it?
What a fantastic group of things. Fantastic.
Well, I
Thank
wish
you
my
very much.
grandfather could hear you say that, because he obviously adored
Well,
it.
I'm absolutely thrilled. Many thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.